the blocks are so big that even today, a modern construction company can't move those blocks and put them, even with large cranes and big mechanical bulldozers and things like that. So it becomes a problem of how primitive people are moving such large blocks and even then placing them one on top of the other. When you see certain structures in Peru, also in Egypt, or also like Baalbek in Lebanon, you have to think even that the modern company that's in those countries today, in Egypt or Peru, they can't make those walls themselves. So when you have the archaeologists are looking at it, they're not thinking like an engineer or an architect. But when you ask an engineer or an architect, well, how did they make this? Those engineers and architects, they don't have an answer. So when people are trying to take really large blocks, megalithic blocks, weighing many tons, and sometimes they're also giant rectangular blocks, but also there can be polygonal blocks where they have many different angles and they're locking in and you have little notches and you still are locking them so that the blocks are like a jigsaw puzzle and they can't move. This becomes an even more difficult way to build. And we wouldn't build like that today. It's too difficult. But yet, we go and we look at these other ancient buildings, supposedly built by people who are more primitive than us, but they build buildings that are better than we would do today.
Childers razmatra različite mogućnosti o prijenosu golemih blokova od granita i bazalta tijekom gradnje megalita. Neki su težili čak i do 1000 tona. Pretpostavlja da je možda bila riječ o nekakvoj vrsti levitacije kamenih blokova, a intrigira ga i teorija o tekućem kamenu.
Another interesting explanation to make some of these perhaps large stones is that they are making a liquid stone. And just like today, we use concrete to pour what would be a stone. It starts as liquid and you have a mold, and then after it solidifies, you have also a giant stone, and it can be very hard. This is a very ingenious way of making a large block by pouring it as concrete. And it's possible that some stones are made this way as a kind of geopolymer, a kind of special concrete that hardens into what appears to be a stone. But there are certain stones, basalt especially, that really couldn't be made this way. They have to be quarried. If you are able to move easily very large stones, then it actually becomes the easy way to make a big wall. Instead of having to move thousands of small stones and put them into place, you can just move a few hundred of much bigger stones, put them into place. And once they are in place, they are so heavy, and sometimes they are locked in together, that it becomes a very stable structure that's indestructible even. So you have that idea that, yeah, it's somehow easy for them to make it. They want to make a structure that's lasting for a long time. Not for hundreds of years, but for thousands of years. And most megalithic structures that we have, they are lasting for thousands of years. They are still standing today. The ones in Egypt are a really good example. Most of them are at least 3,000 years old. And they're still there, perfect, because they are such beautiful and well-made buildings. Also, when you are building with certain kinds of stone with crystals in it, like granite, also basalt, which has a natural magnetism in it, then those crystals or the basalt that's magnetic, it's exuding a kind of an energy all the time. And even with detectors and things, you can measure it. So in that way, it can be enhancing the energy fields around, even in the earth, for the plants to grow. It's another idea of why they're putting obelisks in the ground or towers made of granite, say, and that energy from the sun and the earth is being channeled into the ground. And it helps all of the life, including humans and the animals and the plants to grow better.
O namjeni i značenju megalitskih građevina postoje različite teorije. Jedna od interpretacija razmještaja kamenih blokova povezuje se i s teorijom energetskih linija zemlje. Građenje hramova i kamenih struktura odražavalo je eteričku i životnu silu zemlje.
In England they call them ley lines. In China they call them dragon lines. In Australia, the Aboriginals there call them serpent lines. And it's a kind of energy moving through the earth, just like energy moves through our bodies too. So where those lines are intersect, and you have what is like a energy vortex area, sometimes we'll call it a power spot, and certain people can feel that. Even there are instruments that can measure these things. And it's possible that the ancient builders of these megaliths are also aware of this energy and that they're using the Earth's energies to place certain pyramids or standing stones. And they are working with the natural energy of the Earth. And there's a name for this. It's called geomancy, of working with the earth energies, and even you can change the earth's energies by building a geometric structure, maybe a pyramid, or putting a needle of crystal granite into the earth and helping to create energies there. Sometimes too, one of the problems with these megalithic structures is that they are so well built and they are going to last for such a long time that after a civilization has been destroyed or the people have left, maybe a cataclysm has even washed over this area and the people are gone, but the structure is still there. And then later, some new people are coming, a whole new tribe coming to the area, and they are finding buildings that are already built, ready to go. And they can just move right into that building and occupy it. And then, but later archaeologists said, oh, you are the builder of these buildings. But the people themselves will say, no, we didn't build this. It was made before by the gods or by the giants who came before us.
Betonski blokovi na sjevernoj strani Bosanske piramide Sunca. Ovi su lijevani nešto drugčije, horizontalno, s tim da svaki naredni blok ulazi ispod prethodnog, kreirajući stepenice. Drugi horizontalni blok ulazi ispod ovog drugog, treći ispod drugog. Naravno, i zbog strukturne stabilnosti je to bilo važno. Ovdje je vrlo očigledno kako je glina korištena kao vezivni materijal. Smeđi vezivni materijal je glina kojeg je bilo u izobilju u okolinu. Zapravo jedno čitavo brdo između piramida Sunca i Mjeseca je glina, a pola brda nedostaje. Trebale su im ogromne količine vezivnog materijala da bi napravili beton koji će prekrivati kompletnu bosansku piramidu Sunca. naša procjena je da su iskoristili oko 18 milijuna tona materijala. Za Keopsu bilo je potrebno oko 5 milijuna tona. Dr. Eberhard Baumann iz Njemačke je medicinski doktor, biolog i fizičar.
I would say most of what we learn these days is not right because it has no foundations. It has no foundations in the consciousness of people. As long as you consider, for example, Darwin's theory of evolution as a theory, that's fine. That is a scientific approach. As long as you propose theories of relativity as theory, fine. But when you say that's what it is, and you have to accept that this is right, then you are wrong. All these theories have certain points which speak in favor of them. But all these theories have also findings which contradict them. And that gap cannot be bridged. And in fact, it is something hard to accept, especially for a television audience. Truth is contradictory. There is not just one truth. And in fact, in quantum field physics, it is clearly stated the whole universe has a point value. At the same time, it is fully justified to say the whole universe is infinite. So the infinity and the point value are both true. The moment something becomes a dogma, untruth comes in by the back door, inevitably, always, in all fields. So we have to remain totally open. And we are presently, that's what I always emphasize in public also, we are presently using a very small part of our mental capacity. And with this small part, we have sent rockets to the moon, or allegedly even people to the moon, who knows if it's true. We have achieved a lot on the material level. But you turn around and you see wars all around the world all the time. This is a declaration of breakdown of intellect. There's always the official history and then the revisionism. Right? History means to revise everything all the time. You find new documents, you find new connections, which means you have to revise the present view of history of this or that time or personal activity.
Otkrića istraživača u Bosanskoj dolini piramida izravno se suprotstavljaju konvencionalnoj slici povijesti. Baumann smatra da je i to jedan od primjera znanstvene dogme koja nastoji zaštititi službena učenja o linearnom razvoju ljudske povijesti.
The main point perhaps is that we see with our own eyes huge structures, obviously pyramids, built in very specific ways which needs a lot of intelligence and planning and knowledge. And these structures have been set up 30,000 years ago or more, at a time when the dogmatic prehistoric science and anthropological science also tells us man was primitive. So that alone is such a contradiction that you get your doubts about the value of science today. And in this case, the specific science of prehistory, anthropology. How can they say such a thing when we have such structures of that age, and then this tunnel system also being, nobody knows how old, but 5,000 years, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, nobody knows, but very old. And again, people were supposed to be primitive at that time, having no technical means to dig such tunnels, to set up such a huge pyramid, very even structure with these huge cast stone plates on them, weighing up to 24 tons. So this is a contradiction which will not be solved by saying, no, it's not there.